Hey bakers, John Cannell here, and today on Preppy Kitchen we're making the ultimate chocolate cupcake. Or is this the ultimate chocolate cupcake? Too much frosting? You let me know. This stuff is so good you will be piping it directly into your mouth, so either make a double batch of it or have someone keep an eye on you. Let's get started. I'm adding 180 grams or 1.5 cups of all-purpose flour into a bowl with a sifter above it, 1 1/3 cups of sugar, wow, in you go. Half a teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. That's our leavening agent. We're gonna sift it up and whisk it out, except that I put out the cocoa powder. That is like the main flavor. What am I thinking? All right, put this back on. Let's get that cocoa. I'm adding 1/4 cup of a high quality cocoa powder. This is from Valrhona, but there's tons of nice brands out there. Now we're gonna sift this lumpy mess out. Look at these boulders. Actually, let's give it some help. All right, whisk it up. Take it off the scale if you want to be nice to your scale. Right, now that everything's distributed, we can set this aside and work on our wet ingredients after a quick wipe down. This recipe calls for buttermilk, but I never have buttermilk. It's just like annoying because it goes bad so quickly and you use it. I don't make buttermilk pancakes every day, let me just say that. So my solution is to use regular milk, which we're gonna sour with some white vinegar. You could also use lemon juice if you want to. We just need to add some acidity to curdle it, and it'll help with the leavening agents too. So almost half a cup, and then we're just gonna pour in a tablespoon or so. Give it a little stir, 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 stir. By the time we're ready for it, it'll be nice and thick. Into my separate bowl, I'm adding in 2 whole eggs, 1/4 cup of sour cream. If you don't have sour cream, yogurt will do as well. Just use plain whole milk yogurt. 1/3 cup of vegetable oil. I love this cake because it can go into the fridge and still be like really, really soft and pillowy. It doesn't have to come back to room temperature. That's because of the vegetable oil. 1/2 cup of our mock buttermilk. See all that curdle? Blech. But it'll taste good. So I'm supposed to use hot coffee, but this is cooled down. In the meantime, while we were setting up, it's fine. The warmer coffee just warms the mixture up a bit and kind of release the flavor of the cocoa powder, but it'll be fine. I'm also adding in a splash of vanilla. It's like 2 teaspoons for good measure. Totally optional though. Some people are really bothered by vanilla going into chocolate things. You can let me know in the comments if that's you or if you're fine with it. I like the little extra depth of flavor. Going to stir it up. Never turn the oven on. All right, and once you have a nice homogeneous mixture, we can add the wet to the dry. This can be done in a stand mixer with a paddle attachment, or it could be done by hand, which I'll be doing right now. I just don't want to deal with another dish. Let's pour that in. This makes a very wet batter, so don't be scared if it looks too watery. That's how it's going to be. Magic will happen in the oven, and it'll become a wonderful, moist, but still like fluffy, fudgy cupcake. Doing this by hand means I'm saving electricity and getting exercise. I'm a hero. You want to stir this for like, a little bit less than a minute. You do want to activate some of the gluten in the flour. You'll see it become nice and silky, and there won't be any lumps left in there. It's strangely mesmerizing. See that nice drizzly batter? That's what we want. So we're gonna set it aside and prep our little cupcake papers. Let's add the papers into our tin. I'm using just plain old white ones. I like that you can see the chocolate come through. The key is gonna be to not overfill these. They actually will rise a lot, so don't go about 2/3 of the way full. I'm using a medium ice cream scoop to help me out. Yesterday, I used a large one. Horrible things happened. It was a full glom pan of chocolate cupcake, but it looked like a sheet cake. So, I'm gonna try and be neat about this. It's harder when they're giant. By the way, they're trimming a giant 50-year-old pine tree right next door, right outside of the window, and just in case you're wondering, what's that buzzing sound? It's chainsaws. Filling up those cupcakes. You'll be eating my feelings. This recipe will make about 16 to 18 cupcakes depending on how you're filling them. I have some leftover batter, so I'm just gonna spray a little 3-inch pan and make a mega cupcake or personal cake for myself. Cupcakes will go into the oven at 350 Fahrenheit for about 25 minutes or until the centers are springy and set. In the meantime, let's make our dreamy chocolate Swiss meringue buttercream. We need 5 egg whites. So let's start separating. You can use a third bowl to separate into if you're afraid your yolks are gonna break, like that one just did. If you're quick though, it's not a big deal. I see some yolk in there. Clean hands is the best way, but make sure you crack those eggs carefully, otherwise bad things are gonna happen. Woo. I should have used that third bowl. What was I thinking? Once again, trying to be a big shot. Now we're adding in 1.5 cups of granulated sugar. In you go. If you like your buttercream a bit sweeter, you could add in maybe 2 extra tablespoons. At some point though, those eggs become saturated and the sugar won't dissolve into them, so you have little grains. And yes, I learned this the hard way. Give this a stir so it is fully homogeneous. Add a pinch of salt in here too. And now we're gonna put it over a pot of simmering water, making sure the water does not touch the bowl. It's gonna steam heat it to 160 degrees, and yes, you'll be whisking this the whole time. All right, so take your 160 degree Fahrenheit egg mixture and pour it right into your stand mixer. You can see how gooey it is now. We're gonna mix it on high for about 10 minutes or so. It needs to come to room temperature. While that's going, I'm adding in 10 ounces of bittersweet chocolate into a bowl. You can give this a chop if you want, but I think it'll be fine just like this. And we're gonna place it right over that double boiler. And then you keep mixing. By the time they're both done, everything will be set. Let's check in on this. Look how gorgeous this is. This is like one of my favorite parts of baking. In case you're wondering, making meringue. Okay, so it's not ready yet because it's too warm, but look at that. It's like a Dr. Seuss dollop. This needs to mix for a while longer. You could actually pack the bowl in ice to speed things up, but that chocolate has to melt, the cupcakes have to bake, so I'm not in a huge hurry. Once the chocolate starts melting, you can just give it a little stir to help things along and keep an eye on it. So my chocolate isn't all the way melted, but I'm taking it off the heat and those couple extra lumps will just dissolve on their own. This needs to start cooling down, so, the sooner the better. All right, in the meantime, my meringue is almost cool enough and I'm gonna risk it. Oh, look at this, that's ready. So you can see how it has that nice little wobble wobble over there. The thing is, if it's too warm, the butter will melt. This is actually nice in room temperature. But if you couldn't wait and you plop that butter in and it becomes soupy, just give it like 5 minutes in the fridge. So just take the bowl off, into the fridge and whip it up. It should be fine. Right now, we're gonna go on low and start adding in tablespoon-sized pieces of this room temperature butter. The butter needs to be nice and room temp, not melty. Add a tablespoon in, give it a beat, add the next one. This will take a minute or two, but it's really entertaining. I call this my wishing well time. You're gonna see this is gonna become soupy right away after that first half cup of butter goes in, or 113 grams. I'm adding in 1 full pound, by the way, so 113 times 4, or 2 cups, or 4 sticks if you're in America. It's so sad that so many American recipes are not in metric because it's depriving all those people around the world that don't use cups. I myself didn't know that cups weren't a thing until I started my YouTube videos. I was educated quickly. So like, what is a cup? All right. Take a look at this. Off. That's what I'm looking for. Nice, has a lot of definition. This still needs to keep going for a bit because there are some little specks of butter in there, but that is a nice Swiss meringue consistency you can see there. I think it tastes delicious, even without the vanilla. But instead of vanilla today, we're adding chocolate. This is gonna mix for a couple more minutes, and then this is gonna keep cooling down. If it's still really warm, you can transfer it to a cold bowl, and that'll help things along as well. And this is pretty hot, so I am gonna transfer it to a cold bowl to help things along. You could have also done this in advance, which I did not do. Cupcakes have been cooling in the background. They're not done yet, but Look at this perfectly filled cupcake. It makes me so happy. Yesterday I overfilled the cupcakes and it was trying. There was a lot of sneak eating happening on the sly. So my chocolate's been in the fridge for a couple of minutes and now it's in the 70s, so it's perfectly fine to drizzle in while this mix is on low. This is the magical part where everything comes together. It's so pretty. So as you can see, the inside is totally chocolatey. The outside is not mixed. So let's give it a mix and scrape the bowl down. I mean, that is just right. So much chocolate, not too much sugar, light as air. Okay, we're ready to transfer this amazing concoction into a piping bag, and I'm fitting it with an 869 tip. It's my large open star, my favorite cupcake decorating tip, especially if you want to add in a ton of frosting. So with this dollop, you're gonna add a ton of buttercream to the bottom and keep turning it clockwise, counterclockwise until it becomes a little point. That's pretty nice, and it's maybe just the right amount of buttercream. Love it. Let's make a couple more. So you could also just do one big dollop without the turning. It's kind of nice, a spiral. You could just top it with a chocolate covered espresso bean or maybe a little drizzle of chocolate. Back to my favorite. I think that looks so nice and it's really, really easy to do. By the way, if it's a bit off center, you can just tap it a little bit and it'll correct it while it's still soft. These can go into the fridge, but they'll really firm up, so I would leave them at room temperature, just covered. So this is the actual amount of frosting that I like on a cupcake. I am not a crazy frosting to cake ratio person. I like it to be, you know, more cake than frosting. And it is time for a bite. I'm basically speechless. All the chocolate pathways in my brain are firing on full. You don't taste the coffee, really just up to the chocolate flavor, and this frosting is like the perfect companion to this fluffy, fudgy cupcake. You've got to try this. I don't know if you can tell how delicious this is, but I'm like, I will be gorging myself off camera. It's that good. If you like this recipe, check out my German chocolate cake. It is everything you need a German chocolate cake to be, and it is beyond amazing. Thanks so much for watching. If you like my videos, hit that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.